Good morning. This is the Blaze Roll webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You get more information and find out about past shows and future shows at my website, which is behind me, blainsworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield. I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Gary Charles, founder of To Asheville and Beyond and G Social Media, for being my guest today. Gary, you can wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this.
Hey,
Okay.
how you doing?
And this is so exciting, by the way, for me, Gary, because I've seen you on programs and stuff you've done taped, but this is the first time I've actually gotten to meet you, so this is really cool.
Yeah, this is awesome.
I should mention that Gary Charles is the founder of To Asheville and Beyond and G Social Media, where he connects communities through vibrant storytelling, marketing, and multimedia. Based in Asheville, he specializes in helping local businesses grow their visibility and impact through authentic contact and strategic branding. He is passionate about what he does, and also he's a very creative guy, as you'll see, and he wants to help make Western North Carolina a better place. And so, Gary, the first question I typically ask when I meet somebody on the air for the first time is, the kid you grew up where?
I grew up in Brooklyn, New York,
Okay.
and kind of made it to about 20, 21 years old. Ended up getting married, and then I ran away to Asheville, North Carolina,
Okay.
just to start a new life.
Well, not dissimilar in the sense, yeah, I grew up, if you can't tell, on Long Island, and
Oh,
so
nice.
I wasn't far from you. And so then I worked my way to New Jersey, Pennsylvania, same thing too, got to Asheville. And so as a kid growing up, did you always know you wanted to be this media guy?
Not really, but I guess looking back now, I look at how I was always catalyzing. I was always dealing with meaningful things in life. I was technically raised, I tell people I was raised by 50 women in my living room chanting a couple obscenities at the men, but 33 of them became the first women firefighters in the world. And one of them was my mom. So I grew up in that environment where we're always like ultra woman supportive and, we're going to make it. And, women are not stupid and women are strong and, and all that stuff. So I grew up there and I was like, yeah, they are. Obviously, that's all I knew.
How long was she a firefighter for?
She was a firefighter for about 7 years before she retired on an injury.
Okay. Is she still around?
No, she passed away. I think 7 years ago now. So,
Okay. So anyway, at least remember her, and kind of that's a cool way to remember the mom. So you got to Asheville. When did you get to Asheville?
um, it was 90, the end of 92.
Okay. And so
So,
what got you to Asheville?
this had to do with my mother again. She became part of the United Women Firefighters Association, which they just had their memorial service for all the women who passed away in New York City, I think yesterday. But and I could send you the pic if you want. But they she came down to Asheville to pick up the one woman firefighter in Asheville because they felt bad for her. And this one woman in the man's world. So they were picking her up to take her to Texas to the United UWF conference. And they ended up in a tornado on the way there, all this stuff. But they had a great time. But her and her friends got here early and they stopped by Weaverville and walked in and saw the homes, of course, on the window. And they're like, oh, she said it reminded her of Little House on the Prairie. So she was like, oh, walked in, and next thing you know, she's putting $1,000 deposit on a piece of property, and it took it from there. And she started telling me, hey, I want to build a home there. I want to build a log home and all these things. And I was like, do they even have roads down there? I didn't know. So.
And electricity and running water and whatever. So she got here before you did then? Was that what happened?
Yes, yeah. She came down here, was getting settled. Her uncle Al, which is my granduncle, was down here with her. So she was like just trying to build a new life, something away from New York City and everything she grew up in. She just had a vision of something more peaceful, and yeah, and this was it for her. So.
So when you got to Asheville then, did you also have a vision that you were going to start this media company or do all this media stuff?
Not necessarily. I tell people like I had a lot of culture shock when I moved down here. I tell people I had to trade the middle finger for the wave. So people were waving at me. I was like, "What's going on here?" I felt like I was in the twilight zone, like people were trying to trick me. Then me and my first wife, we went to church, and after church, we went to this big church. I was like, "Let's go make some friends," and that's how I am. But jump in a big church as soon as the service is over, she's surrounded by like 20 women, and she was pregnant too. It was my firstborn Gary, but 20 women got around her, and I was like, I didn't know what was going on. I was shocked. I was like, what's going on? Are they going to take us somewhere? And then one big guy was on the side, and I saw him watching me because I'm always watching everything my Brooklyn. And I saw him watching me, and he kept getting closer and closer. And he did like one of the worst things anybody could have done to me at that point in life. He put his arm around me, and I was like, "What are you doing? You don't know me. Like, we don't touch each other in Brooklyn." So that was my attitude then. I had to get
So,
used to it.
so similar, Gary. I remember the first time I'm downtown Asheville and walking somewhere, and we saw somebody's eating there, and they say, do you want to have a do you want to try this? Do you want to, off their plate? Do you want to sample this?" I said, "It looks good," and they offered it to. I've never seen that before, And
Yeah.
so I'm not sure. I'll tell you later, maybe, but same thing too. So it was a cultural shock. So you came here, but did you already have your media background, or how did you pick that up?
No, I actually had a construction background. The only media that I could attribute actually was graffiti. Uh, yeah, both my parents were on the FDNY. My mom was a firefighter, one of the first one firefighters. My dad was supervising fire marshal in Brooklyn. So they're working 72-hour shifts. So kind of like, I guess you could say the gang became my family, the local street gang, and everybody loved graffiti. It was your way to get your voice out there where nobody would listen. And it matches a lot to social media.
I was going to
So like,
say, right.
yeah, yeah, I have my little my credits on my videos and stuff. That's technically my graffiti. When I make a comment, it's my graffiti in that sense, not the illegalities of it.
So how do you pick up these skills that you have, though?
Um, I I guess when I started doing some web work, I was working with a company my company, a home building company in downtown Asheville on Wall Street. And I teamed up with Bill Nixdorf of Paleo Sun. I think that was his last company. I don't know what he's doing now. But George Zoof, which is a photographer. And we wanted to experiment on SEO. So we're like, SEO wasn't even a word. But we were still in chat rooms doing marketing. But so we started experimenting with a couple of home building websites, a log home website, a modular home website, and a stick built home website. And within 6 months, we were like rich, and we couldn't keep up with all the inquiries because technically Google was easily tricked then, trickable. Google was trickable. And so you could keyword stuff and modular homes and everything and get high in the rankings until they hired people that are just as knowledgeable as us, or trying to be at least.
Well, you said that it's kind of interesting because one of the problems I have with a Google or Facebook, whatever, is that, and it's where you come into play, I don't know how to use some of that stuff, nor do I want to, want to learn
Mhm.
it. But the real problem is they have no help whatsoever. It's really, you were mentioning before, off there, you got hacked on Facebook, and so did
Yeah,
I, but they won't help you, and
yeah.
you can't. Speak to a human being.
I had to pay to complain to them.
Right. Well, yeah, you're getting me off on a tangent, but same exact thing. It gets worse since you mentioned it. I joined Instagram. I started an Instagram account, and
Mhm.
Instagram at least has a paid. You can get help supposedly if you
Mhm.
Instagram. You can't get on Facebook, but you can pay to get help on Instagram. So same thing too. I paid to get help. They were no help, but you paid for them anyway. It's so exasperating. So you started learning the system, Google, other social media. Did you take courses in it, or did you just pick it up on your own?
No, once we started doing that web work and SEO, and it started coming in, and then the social media accounts started coming out. I guess Twitter started coming on the scene really big. I actually hooked up with this girl named Shannon, and one of my best friends growing up was Shannon as well. She passed away in 9/11. But so I was like, oh, yes, I want you to help me, this girl. And she helped me develop my first batch of social media platforms. And after she did, I started looking at them, studying the platforms, seeing I'm a relationship builder. So I love jumping in a room with strangers and like just finding out and all that stuff and then quantifying it. But I got a hold of social media and I kind of never let go. I was like, wow, I could build a relationship with a thousand people. I wasn't money motivated. I was education, passion, connection motivated. Building relationships is the key. And that's what I still bring people back to nowadays. They're like, oh, yeah, you do social media? I was like, no, they don't do social media. They do the mechanics. I was like, what you need is true relationship building, not telling people to hire me. But yeah, your representative represents your culture, your attitude of your business. So you better make sure those people love people. And
One,
yeah.
one of the things I love about you and your work is that you also tell great stories,
Mhm.
and you and I were talking about this off the air a little bit, as opposed to just putting up stuff or putting up crap. You want to tell a story and just talk a little bit about that because that's really caught my attention the last couple of years. I told you I'll usually find you on LinkedIn, probably watching it, and I'll start seeing this clip. And I love your strategy behind them. They're not long clips. Talk about what you try to do with the clips.
Oh yeah, by the time you realize, even if you don't like them, that it's already done. So my stats still stay up. It's not a 17-minute video and then you watch 1 minute and then give me a bad stat. So you have 35 seconds, and yeah, if you like it or you don't, but still playing the video playing all the way through tells Google and the other algorithms that it's valued, just because they watch that as well. But so yeah, I just started jumping on social media. I started learning Twitter. Uh, Ended up using Twitter to win a couple competitions, international even. And it was a heyday back then.
So talk a little bit about then what you actually do and talk about what I've seen and we'll reference it. They can go, we'll give information at the end about how to find your stuff. But I've
Mhm.
seen, like I said, almost religiously now. I'm watching it and I'm seeing these great clips you're putting up of different things in Asheville. What are you trying to show or do with those clips?
Yeah. Well, I guess what I realized, I guess a few months after the hurricane, is that I'm a revivalist at heart. I love reviving things. I love making things come to life or rebirthing. And maybe it had to do with me even coming to Asheville and getting kind of rebirthed here. Like I said, leaving the middle fingers behind. But I love to see that. I love to see it happen. Years ago, I helped one of the churches establish the biggest bus ministry in Western North Carolina. And I love making connections and, reaching the families, dealing with the kids, children's church, all those different items to help a community. So I love seeing that. Yeah, that's pretty much my big passion. So when the hurricane happened, I was in shock for just about a week, I guess. Um, and then my truck had broke down on the Amboy Road, right where the river was coming through. So I ended up in West Asheville on a vintage light blue bicycle that I tell people I stole it from my ex-girlfriend, but she left it at my house. She didn't have room for it in our condo, so I jumped out on that with the camera around my neck, jumped on Hayward Road, and just started filming people. And it was just interesting. I was just documenting it at the beginning. Then I was at Trinity Baptist because they had Starlink, and then
Right.
of course the West Asheville Library had their little internet deal. So I was jumping between those places. West Asheville Baptist was feeding me like every other day. So and I would stand out there and just watch. My degrees in theology and psychology, so I was standing across the street from the fire department one day, and I was looking at things and watching. I took a couple of pictures, and some guy walked up to me. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm watching the people, the anti-God people over here in this business, work with the God people in this business, making sure that everybody's taken care of." And that's so just moments like that, and just seeing a community work together. Of course, it was short. It was sort of short lived, but yeah, it was a beautiful thing. So then I started. I was like, okay, what's next? Everybody has a story. I passed by Firestorm, and there were some people delivering supplies from Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky, and they raced up here and bring supplies to everybody, making sure everybody had everything. So I got to interview them, and then beautiful story, quick, straight to the point. Then went to the next person. Hey, do you have a story? Do you want to say something? And then once the trauma kind of left my head from the hurricane, I was able to say, oh, this person has a story. Hey, I have this creative I want to talk to you about. I usually don't prep them ahead of time because I like the spontaneity. That's my angle as well. So I'll say I have the creative. I'll meet you. You don't have to rehearse anything. I don't need a robot. I need a real person. I need you stuttering. I need you, whatever you have to do. Your hair messed up, whatever. I don't need no fake person. I need reality, and that's kind of how I live, and that's what I'm after.
And one of the things I love about it, Gary, is that you tell these really interesting stories, but unlike this webcast is go on too long, perhaps, you tell the stories within what, 90 seconds, or you try to do it?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and sometimes I'm known to get frustrated. I'm like, if somebody's telling me a story and they're lagging on, I'm like, come on, come on. I was like, I'm gonna have to start charging you. Not that, but we're living in a busy day and age, and I'm getting older too, so I understand. People, I want to slow down sometimes as well, but I have to respect other people's times and the kind of the society's time. Society's on short time now, so they have 1 minute to give to you, and in the first 5 seconds, you better get their attention. So that's where we are. So I try to mold myself around that a little bit.
Talk, Gary, about three things I guess I know you're involved in one in particular that all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but after I moved here, Asheville became then Beer City, USA, right? And how did you get involved in that?
I was already doing promotions all over the place, and uh, I was. It was at the point on Twitter to where people, I would say people, the tech professionals of the community started mocking me and calling me the king of social media. So, and that hurt a little then. Now I use it for an advertisement.
I was going to say,
But
yeah, I love it, right?
yeah, so uh, yeah, it was. I just. Oh, repeat the question again.
No,
Sorry.
I'm
What was?
sorry. We were talking about all of a sudden Beer City Asheville became
Oh
Beer
yeah, yeah,
City.
Beer City. So with so when they started mocking me, it brought more attention to me actually, and that's how it works. And I got a call from Jimmy at Barley's Pizza, and he told me, he's like, come in for a meeting. He's like, I want to talk to you about something. So he called me in, and he's like, hey, I got this project for you. And he says, and he told me, you're the only one that could get it done. He's like, I know that already. He says, but I'm not going to say that, but I know you're done. And I was like, well, tell me what is it? He's like, you have to promise me, if I tell you what it is, you can't tell anybody unless you take the campaign, and then you can't tell anybody that you're running the campaign until we win. I was like, what? Because I was like loud and proud. Woo! We're gonna make Asheville Beer City, USA. I'm running the show. And he didn't want that. And I was like, why? I was like, why is this so secretive? And he told me a couple. He was joking with me, but he told me, I don't necessarily fit the mold. I didn't graduate from certain schools in the community. I'm not 100% Irish. Whatever it is, I don't care. All the stuff I walk over every day. So
So anyway,
so and then so
no, I didn't realize there was actual competition where we got named Beer City USA. And we're talking with Gary Charles, and I think we're just frozen for a second. So I want to pause this. Again, back with the Blames Roll webcast, and my guest is Gary Charles. And we're talking, Gary, about some of the cool stuff you've done, not only in the Asheville area, but throughout the country. And we left off, we were talking about Beer City. And so I didn't realize there was a competition to be named that, or what was that all about?
yes, it was a competition, and once we won it, uh, people started flocking here. Guys trips, girls trips, bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, celebrations. Everybody was like, "Let's go there," because they have a beer-centric community, and technically we put Asheville on the craft beer map.
Well,
And
certainly did. You know, it was
yeah, yeah,
phenomenal.
and we won a couple years in a row, I guess, and then I think they got a board or something, and then we lost. But bureaucracy. But we already had the momentum going. Everybody was already here. Experiences were happening. We were having a great time, and it was just like it was kind of beautiful Asheville back then, where there wasn't like everybody protesting against each other or hating on each other. It was just like, hey, we're drinking beer, let's do this.
And so,
So,
ironically, let me have you fast forward then. So we go from Beer City to, and I love the title also. It's Moonshine Gary. What was that all about?
oh yeah, so based off of what I did for Beer City USA and a bunch of my other media, another person approached me, CEO of a company, and he said, uh, "I want you to come help with my distillery, help get my distillery off the ground, help get it noticed." They were just looking for somebody to buy them out and for investors, uh, ultimately. But in the meantime, come in, make it great, tell stories, do videos. And I opened up the tasting room in the place. So I was doing the whole presentations of different whiskeys, different moonshines. So I'm pretty well versed. And if I'm not, I'll learn it in a few minutes, uh, tasting all of it. But yeah, so they called me in there and they're like, oh, by the way, we represent a celebrity from Moonshiners on TV. So they're like, we want you to represent him. And I was like, okay, a moonshiner. I'm thinking country,
Right, right.
backwoods, and everything. The same thing I thought when moving down here from New York City. But I was like, okay, let me study this guy. And I studied it for maybe a half hour. And I was like, I could easily take his personality and in his personality, make him likable and even lovable. And and even though he didn't want to take pictures with nobody and he's always cursing under his breath, I took that and I made something amazing out of it. So I brought his brand up to yeah, millions of people a month coming over, and everybody wanted to see him, everybody wanted a picture with him and everything. And eventually a company out of Florida, international company out of Florida, came and bought him and a distillery out.
So what?
And
Very
yeah.
cool. So one of the things you do then, aside from promoting Asheville and doing all this other stuff, you'll help a company if they want to help develop the brand, and you'll work with them in that area.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I take it from start to finish, and I'm just not sitting behind the scenes on a computer typing away. I'm out on the dance floor if I need to be. So
And
yeah.
I'll ask you about one other thing. I mean, you're involved with so many different projects, but I'll ask you about one other thing, Gary. And I don't know anything about it. It's the Free Green Competition. What's that?
Oh yes, that was an international architecture competition, and it was weird. It was kind of the same angle because the architect Darryl Rantis, which he's now passed away, but he contacted me and he told me the same thing. He's like, don't brag about it. He's like, let's just do this. And I was like, all right, boom. So I took the competition, started working on it through Twitter primarily, and I started doing meaningful tweets, and that's kind of difficult because you have 140 characters,
Right.
but I mastered it and getting attention, getting architects behind us, getting people that love design and homes and construction. So I did that primarily through Twitter as well. And the funny thing is that we lost. We came in third place. So we were kind of sad. We're like, oh no, we didn't get the bag of money. Gary, you suck. But then they called us about 3 hours later and said the first two people got disqualified for spamming the system.
Oh, is that how cool is
Yeah.
that? Right.
So I was number one when it came to organic results, and he ended up winning. And of course, he brought the title like to Asheville and the Green Home Building Association. Everybody was like excited because we were technically an architectural staple, and it was that home over there on Chicken Hill, that fancy home. Now there's like 20 homes that look sort of like it, but that was the original like free green architecture, beautiful structure.
How's your life going to change as a result of AI? Is that affecting what you're doing?
Oh yeah, AI is like amazing to me.
Me
Like
too.
it's helped me so much. I could take one paragraph and word it right, and say what I'm looking for, and this is what I want. I want looking for this. If there's history, if there's anything to do with Germany or Italy, pull it in because I want to connect it to this. So my mind's like always connect. I'm a catalyst again, so I catalyze in my brain constantly. I'm like all these things put together, and so I put that in a paragraph. AI builds it out. AI asks me questions, and and even talks to me. Like I program different bots, AI bots. So if I'm doing a business proposal, for a certain industry, and I know the CEOs graduated from Harvard, I'll tell my AI to write this proposal in Harvard terminology. Or I'll say dumb it down a little because I'm talking to a bunch of moonshiners. Not dumb it down, no disrespect, but make it simple and funny and a little roughneck. Mm-hmm.
Well, same thing too. I love it that I'll ask it to proof my work, and it always does a good job proofing it.
Yes.
Or the most amazing thing, Gary, same thing too. I'll write something, then I'll ask you, do you want me to rewrite it for your blog? Or do you want me, just amazing.
Yes,
But you said
exactly.
it, like you just addressed this final point, is rather than people, I guess, criticize it or be afraid of it, you better be on top of it, or at least be aware of it, because if you ridicule it, you're gonna fall by the wayside.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just working with the ministry the other day and talking to them, and I was doing videos off my phone. I was like, I need 1 minute off my phone, and they're like, "What is this for? What is this for?" I said, "It's for TikTok." And a
Right.
couple of them looked at me like, "What?" And I said, "I know some of y'all are still preaching against it, but this is an area that we need to work on for your ministry, not mine." So, and they're like, "Oh, cool, we trust you." I work with everything from ministry to moonshiners to yeah.
And so
So
now that they trust you to do it. Gary, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, let's talk about a couple ways. And with you, there are about
mhm.
27 ways to get in touch with you. But I guess they could contact you, first of all, with respect to what would you say is the best reason to contact Gary Charles?
I would say if they want true relationship building, social media and web presence. And I'm not just saying that because that's all I do. Like I said, I'll jump on the dance floor with you. I'll go party with you. Actually, that was a problem. That was a problem when people were calling me out on Twitter years ago. And then when I showed up to the party, everybody liked me, and that made it even worse. So it's like, oh God, they expected to come and be like, oh, this guy's terrible, or this guy's mean, or whatever they had in their mind. But yeah, so yeah.
So to reach you, what's best bet, Gary?
Probably Gary at gsocial.media is my email. Everybody wants to put a .com after it, but Gary at gsocial.media is the best way to reach out to
Oh,
me.
I'm glad you mentioned this. So there's no .com. It's just
No,
Gary.
gsocial.media.
What if you put a com? Will it get to you?
No, it doesn't. But
Okay.
yeah, the dot media is technically the .com. Just like .net, .media, .com. But usually I go through email. Like even when somebody nowadays, if somebody's like, "Oh, here's my business card," yeah, and look, I got a stack of business cards from this past week. Here's my business card. I'm like, man, I'm saving trees. Whatever hippie thing they want to hear. But I'm like, if it's important enough, I'm gonna pull out my phone right then, and I'm going to email them. And then they could email me back so I could look over that email. I love email because you're
Me
able
too.
to see everything. Yeah. And
You
have it.
know,
So it's not a text. I'm not trying to put stuff together and, oh, he sent me a message on Messenger and then on LinkedIn. And
I
then,
hate that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh.
I got to search for it.
No, me same exact and Twitter, you name it, or Instagram, just
Uh-huh.
email. I can save it, read it. Unlike you, in that sense, a dinosaur. If people want to see your stuff, what I was talking about earlier, what's the best bet? You mentioned you're on LinkedIn, you're on Facebook. Where do they look
Oh,
under?
yeah. LinkedIn, under LinkedIn, Gary Charles, but on Facebook, to Asheville and beyond. And that's where I've been doing the revival stories, and even now building some tourism based stories and experiences for people to have. But or they could go to Moonshiner Gary and see me with the celebrities. And I think I'm in the front my first banners with Moonshiner Amanda. The Moonshiners had so many white guys on the show. They needed a black guy and they needed a woman. So they got Richard, a black guy from Louisiana, to be Moonshiner Richard. And he's a real moonshiner, which is great. And then they got Moonshine Amanda, a redheaded white girl from Pennsylvania. So it fit in perfect and made the show more balanced and probably gave them another few seasons. But Moonshiner Gary, I have all my information up there. I have my phone number. You could text me. Not past midnight, please. No, I'm just kidding.
I just recommend if people want to find something interesting, look up Gary Charles because I think he'll everything we've talked about, you'll see if you look at any of the sites you mentioned. Because one of the things I've told you, Gary, off the air, I really enjoy watching your stuff. And I don't say that about a lot of people, but I watch it. And what's cool about it's like fun, and more importantly, not only is it fun, I love your smile, but you also have people smiling in it, which is great. It looks like that, or I guess they're having a good time on it as well. So
yeah, and that's why I make it fun for myself, and then I usually cover everybody else.
Okay. Well, whatever you do, just keep it up, man. And you do really good stuff. And, I'm saying that not just because you're on the show, but I really enjoy your stuff. So I'd like to thank you for being my guest at this edition of the Blaine's World webcast. And I'd also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. And one of these days, Gary, we'll bump into each other longer than the 5 seconds we had at Mars Hill 20 years ago or whatever. So that'd be great, man. Thanks an awful lot.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Be well.